Welcome to Malifaux University. 622. Story Scenario, Night of the Harvestmen. Many nations on Earth don't celebrate Halloween and may not be familiar with it. This holiday falls on October 31st each year. It may be rooted in pagan superstitions, but now is a celebration of scary stories, costumes, and candy. Most cultures celebrate annual harvests in some way or fashion though, so naturally, corrupting those festivals and turning them into a nightmare scenario makes sense in Malifaux. This is a special story scenario that doesn't use victory points, strategies, or schemes. Like other story scenarios, most of the setup is predetermined and designed specifically for the scenario. One player is the attacker and has only one model, the Harvestman. This model serves as the attacker's crew leader. The attacker starts with no soulstone pool and cannot hire other models. The model on the card is one of the alternate Sorrow models from the Witches and Woes Rotten Harvest Special Edition box. If this model is unavailable to you, you are encouraged to proxy in a thematically similar model, an original Sorrow model, or any other model on a 30mm base that you and your opponent both recognize is the Harvestman. Both the Harvestman stat card and the full rules for this story scenario are available from the links in the notes below. You may wish to print out as many as 10 copies of this stat card, as the attacker may need them to keep models straight on the table. The defender has a crew size of 30 soulstones, and can hire only a henchman as the crew leader. Naturally, this precludes hiring a master into the crew at all. The defender's crew can hire only models with the living or beast characteristics. They can have the construct or undead characteristics, as long as they also have living or beast. This scenario doesn't have a turn limit and will just keep going until one side wins. Also, each player has a maximum hand size of just 4 cards. The scenario doesn't say it explicitly, but you'll flip for initiative each turn like normal, using and assigning pass tokens to each crew as normal. Each player's soulstone pool can never exceed 3 soulstones, and any excess soulstones are just discarded. You'll need to create 5 strategy markers for this scenario. These harvest markers are on 30mm bases and are destructible, but have no other terrain features such as height. Easy printable strategy markers and proxies for the Harvestmen are available from the link to Wargames Vault in the notes below. This scenario uses wedge deployment, and you should set up the table as normal with the usual amount of terrain. The spookier you can make the table look, though, the better. Be sure to discuss the terrain with each other so you understand what's impassable, hazardous, severe, and whatnot. Before the attacker chooses a deployment zone, the attacker drops 4 corpse markers anywhere on the playing area, but at least 6 inches away from one another. Once those are in place, the attacker drops 5 harvest markers anywhere on the table, but also at least 6 inches away from one another and the corpse markers you have already placed on the table. You want to make these harvest markers as protected as possible, since the defending player will try to destroy them. While the markers are all dropped before deploying, the attacker will have already chosen a deployment zone and just not said anything. Once the markers are all down, the attacker reveals which deployment zone is his, as if it weren't obvious, and deploys his one model. The defender then deploys his crew in the other deployment zone. The goal of the scenario depends on which side you're on. The attacker is trying to kill the defender's models. The defender is trying to destroy the harvest markers. The focus of the defenders is the 5 harvest markers. A model within 1 inch and line of sight of a strategy marker can take the slam general action to remove it. It won't be easy, but it's that simple. If your models have other ways of removing destructible terrain, they are free to do so. There are no special requirements for removing the harvest markers. The attacker must study the Harvestman's card closely. The Ghost of Malifaux ability means it can move through terrain and other models, but it is not incorporeal and does not reduce damage. If the Harvestman passes through an enemy model, it is still restricted by that model's engagement range and cannot simply walk away from it. Though the Harvestman has a health track, the Immortal ability says it cannot suffer damage or be killed. The health track then is for the Born Again in Harvest ability. The 4 corpse markers the attacker drops before the game begins count as copies of the Harvestman. In fact, any other corpse markers that enter gameplay become copies of the Harvestman. These corpse copies don't get the Harvestman's immortal ability, so they have 7 health and can take damage normally. They also gain the stunned condition every time they activate, which means they cannot declare triggers, and their Grave Robber bonus action counts as one of their 2 regular actions. At all times, though, they count as both corpse markers and as friendly models in the Harvestman's crew. The crew leader does not count as a corpse marker, though. That Grave Robber bonus action lets a Harvestman drop a new corpse marker within 2 inches. The leader gets focused if it succeeds with a tome in this. Hurl Corpse targets a model within 8 inches. You take a corpse marker within 2 inches of your Harvestman and place it into base contact with the target as the cost of this action. Then you perform the duel, which might damage the targeted model. Even if the duel fails, though, you have a corpse marker next to the target. The leader Harvestman might get the Rip and Tear trigger, which makes a Harvest Strike attack with a positive modifier against the targeted model. In case there's any type of resistance trigger or reaction to the attack, it's the leader Harvestman and not the corpse marker copy that is making the attack, even at the distance. The Harvest Strike attack has a 2-inch range and does 3, 4, 6 damage. There are 3 triggers available to the leader Harvestman, but the embedded Crow guarantees it the Siphon Essence trigger, which could give it a Soulstone. Since every corpse marker copy of the Harvestman is also a henchman, every member of the attacker's crew can use Soulstones. Even though the Crow is embedded in the stat, corpse marker copies of the Harvestman still cannot declare triggers unless they somehow get rid of their stunned condition. The Harvestman crew's only goal is to kill the defending models, so it's a matter of throwing and attacking with corpse marker copies of the Harvestman, making more copies, animating the dead models' corpses, and so on. Keep in mind that the Harvestman doesn't have the living, undead, or beast characteristics, so whenever one of the corpse marker copies is killed, that corpse marker is just removed from the playing area. It does not drop another corpse marker. That'd be crazy. If some game effect would remove a corpse marker, it's not removed, but suffers 2 irreducible damage instead. One challenge the attacking player will face is keeping the corpse copies coordinated with their stat cards. You may wish to number the corpse markers you use and write directly on the stat cards, especially once you start killing enemy models and using their corpse markers as new Harvestmen. This is why you may want to have many copies of at least the front side of the stat card on hand. Being a special story scenario, each player has unique victory conditions. If all 5 harvest markers are removed, the game is immediately over and the defender wins. If there are no defending models in play at any point, the attacker immediately wins. Remember that buried models still count as being in play even though they are not on the table. Let's see this in action. Klaus Norwood is leading a small Neverborn crew against the Harvestman. The Harvestman has dropped all his corpses and harvest markers, opting for a fairly defensive posture. The Neverborn crew then deploys. Klaus is accompanied by Hildegard, Serena Bowman, Kavatica, and 2 changelings. Since the Harvestmen have only 5 models on the table to the Neverborn 6, the Harvestmen gain 1 pass token going into the first turn. Like many games, most of the first turn is relegated to movement, but one changeling finds himself too far out and is attacked by the corpse copy Harvestman. The corpse copy Harvestman kills the changeling with 1 swipe of its Harvest Strike, turning the Neverborn kid into a new corpse marker. Though there is a crow built into the attack, this is a copy of the original Harvestman, and it cannot declare the trigger since it gained the stunned condition when it activated. For its second action, the corpse copy Harvestman uses Hurl Corpse to chuck the new corpse marker at Kavatica. Kavatica loses the duel, and the attack does 2 damage, which Kavatica reduces to just 1 with the shielded condition from his Arcane Shield ability. In the next turn, the Neverborn crew gains a pass token after the initiative flip since they are down to 5 models, while the Harvestmen now number 6. The Harvestmen win initiative again and try to take out the other changeling. Its disguised ability means it cannot be attacked from a charge, so the corpse copy spends 1 action getting into engagement range, but the changeling's manipulative ability puts a negative modifier on the corpse copy's Harvest Strike attack, and the changeling survives. Over the next couple of turns, Serena Bowman and Kavatica eliminate a couple of the corpse copy Harvestmen, while Hildegard uses her Take by the Hand bonus action to keep pushing Klaus Norwood out of engagement. He makes it down to this harvest marker and uses Slam to remove it. With the low-hanging fruit of the changelings gone, the Harvestmen will have to fight harder to eliminate the rest of the Neverborn. Will the Neverborn be able to eradicate enough corpse copies of the Harvestman to survive and remove the rest of the harvest markers, or will each of their butchered bodies serve as fertilizer for a new Harvestman to arise and turn against the Neverborn? Let us know in the comments below how your game turns out when you play. That's the special story scenario, Night of the Harvestmen. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargames Vault. If you haven't already, join our Patreon for early, ad-free access to all new content, and be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.